Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're continuing our series on Sebastian Crow's Guide to Drakenheim, and we're talking about a Cleric subclass. In the worlds of Drakenheim, the religion of the world is that of the Sacred Flame. The people who have eliminated the multi-god style worship of your standard D&D world and have simply created a monotheistic concept that the flame of light and life is what people should be worshipping. However, this cleric subclass takes a very different mindset. This is the shadow domain cleric. I suppose the concept could be that wherever there is light, it casts a shadow. It is the antithesis to the sacred flame, and therefore is an important part of the religion. It's an interesting twist on the idea of a light domain's polar opposite. But how powerful is the subclass in and of itself? We'll get into the details in just a moment, but before we do, I'd like to let you know, Relax Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can support me here on YouTube and get a couple benefits. First, you get a little badge next to your name in the comments, letting folks know that you're a supporter. But also, you get early access to the videos. I upload videos 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I upload the videos a day early for members only. So if that interests you, you can click the join button just below the video down there. And if it doesn't, that's totally fine. I'm very thankful that you're here. Thanks for watching and supporting my content here on YouTube. So clerics choose their domain right at level 1. They're one of the few classes to do so. And the Shadow Domain Cleric gets quite a few potent abilities right away. First of all, they get 2 extra cantrips added to their list, Chill Touch and Minor Illusion. Minor Illusion is arguably one of the best utility cantrips in the game, and oddly enough, Chill Touch provides something to the cleric that they didn't have before, a attack-based cantrip. All of their damage cantrips before, Sacred Flame and Toll the Dead, Word of Radiance, they were saving throw-based cantrips, whereas Chill Touch is an attack roll-based cantrip. Something that the cleric desperately needed. And it's not a bad one at that. It's actually one of the better ones. Between both of these, counting as cleric cantrips and not counting against your cantrips known, that's 10 out of 10 straight away. And then you get the standard domain spells, the shadow domain spells, and these ones are a significant list. You get everything from Sleep right at level 1, Darkness later on, Hypnotic Pattern, Greater Invisibility, even Cone of Cold at the later levels. This is a really powerful spell list, and although it's not perfect, there's enough here to add to the cleric list pretty much every step of the way, and I give the list a 9 out of 10. But finally, you get the ability called Shadow Sight. And Shadow Sight looked at the Twilight Domain Cleric and said, hold my beer. Because this gives you 300 feet of dark vision, not only in regular darkness, but in magical darkness as well. And that's something that is rare. Like, Warlocks can get Devil's Sight, there's a couple special abilities that can give you True Sight, allow you to see in magical darkness, but this is just 300 feet of magical dark vision. And you can't find that anywhere else in D&D. It's wildly powerful, and I give it 10 out of 10, no question. Now at level 2, clerics gain their Channel Divinity, a once per short rest ability, which then you get more uses of as you go. And the Shadow Domain gets Cloak of the Night. When they use their Channel Divinity, they wrap a creature, which can be themselves, in a Cloak of Shadow. Oddly enough, this Cloak of Shadow does not shroud them in darkness. What it does is that within 60 feet of you, all sources of lights are extinguished. And if the sources are magical, they become extinguished if the casting spell that did them, like the light cantrip, for example, is less than your proficiency bonus. So The Daylight spell, for example, would be able to penetrate this Cloak of Night now, but as you level up, it actually becomes stronger and can eliminate more powerful light magic. Even at the highest levels, it could undo Sunbeam, for example. However, that's not all it does. While you're in dim light or darkness, which is greatly aided by this cloak, you then gain resistance to all damage. And that's kind of wild. Clerics are already this kind of weird little middle spot where they get heavy armor, or at least medium armor, and often have short range spells like Spirit Guardians, and honestly, they make decent frontliners, but their health is lacking. They're only a d8 hit die, typically, and Constitution is a secondary stat for them. But with this Cloak of the Night, you can grant yourself resistance to damage, and that's awesome. You also could give it out, if you don't want to be the frontliner, to your fighter or your paladin. Your barbarian probably doesn't need it. But it's a really, really strong ability, and I say another 10 out of 10 right here. The next thing you get is at level 6, and it's called Shifting Shadows. Shifting Shadows says that proficiency bonus times per day, you're able to designate a creature that's standing in dim light or darkness, and teleport them to another area of dim light or darkness within 60 feet. So it's a teleport power. You can do this to yourself or to your allies, and you can even do it to an enemy, although they do get a saving throw to resist it. So this is just, pseudo-dimension door, Misty Step sort of effect. I suppose you could compare it to the spell Vortex Warp, but you just get it. There's no Channel Divinity, there's no spell slot, it's just proficiency bonus, teleportation, so that's 3 a day now, 6 a day by the end of the game, and that's really handy. Teleportation is always strong. Free teleportation's even better, and being able to do it to enemies and allies alike, 10 out of 10. Definitely. Then at level 8, you get Potent Spellcasting, and this is the standard cleric ability. Some clerics get a Divine Strike, which adds to weapon damage. Potent Spellcasting adds your Wisdom modifier to your cantrip damage. Now, normally I'm not a big fan of this feature, because clerics get only a couple attacking cantrips, and they're saving throw-based cantrips, which means at the higher levels of play, they're going to be less reliable. But you have an attack roll-based cantrip now, Chill Touch, and if you can add your Wisdom modifier to that damage, that makes it a more reliable source of damage, and I say that considering that, this is 8 out of 10. Still not the most amazing feature, but much better on this cleric than many others. Finally, at level 17, you get Reborn in Darkness, and this one's a doozy. While you are in darkness, this doesn't work in dim light, you have to be in darkness, you regenerate hit points. Every turn, so every 6 seconds, you regain 10 hit points. And this does not stop when you hit 0 hit points. A lot of regeneration powers say that as long as you have 1 hit point, you regain something. Not this one. As long as you're in darkness, even if you're knocked to 0 hit points, you just gain 10 at the beginning of your turn. You are largely impossible to kill. You have to be either in light or hit by radiant damage to stop this regeneration. On top of that, you also don't age when you're in darkness, which is an interesting ribbon feature that at high levels of play actually could have some really potent role-playing potential. The idea that you could just go into a cave or something and just live forever? Like, you only emerge from the cave when you need to. You spend most of your time in the dark. Means you could live much, much longer than normal, which has crazy world-building potential. But on top of that, you're almost impossible to kill in there. Like, it would take significant power or magical light, which your cloak can undo if it's level 6 and down at this point. This is a phenomenally powerful ability, which, if you can keep yourself in darkness, and you're a shadow cleric, so you probably can, you just become unstoppable. And you can't die from damage, really. You can't die from aging. It's wild, and it's definitely 10 out of 10. Because regeneration is one of those things that makes monsters super difficult to deal with. Now your cleric has it? That's crazy. And all in all, this is one of the most powerful cleric domains I've ever seen. Phenomenal spell list, including a couple cantrips, magical dark vision, damage resistance, teleportation, regeneration. Like, these guys are almost unstoppable. The dungeon dudes who made this book have truly gone above and beyond to take the scaling of power in the clerics, which has been ramping up over time, and continue with that trend. This cleric is brokenly powerful. This one takes the Peace and Twilight Domain clerics and says, guess what? I'm here for the party too. And it is 10 out of 10. No question. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, as well as a link that you can go to buy Sebastian Crow's Guide to Drakkenheim. It's published by Ghostfire Games, written by the Dungeon Dudes right here on YouTube, and I highly suggest you check it out for yourself. Have a good one, my friends.